The new iPhone 16 lineup has been released, and they are somewhat similar to last year's lineup with the iPhone 16, 16 Plus, 16 Pro, and 16 Pro Max models. But when we look at the inside, we start to get quite a bit of differences, and that makes it kind of tough to choose the right iPhone model to buy. So in this video, I'm gonna go through 10 purchasing mistakes that you need to avoid in order to make the right choice, and then I'm actually gonna give you some real practical advice on which one to buy depending on what you care about. So let's jump right into the first mistake that you need to avoid, which is thinking that you need to buy an iPhone 16 Pro model. This is probably the closest that we've ever had a regular iPhone and a Pro iPhone be, with both being based on the same chip, both having Wi-Fi 7, the action button and the new camera control button, 8 gigs of RAM for Apple Intelligence, which actually has been really nice to test in the beta, and a lot more similarities in features which are now available on the regular iPhones. And moving on to number 2, even though they're similar, don't think that the 16 has the same screen as the Pro phones. Now yes, a lot of the quality is the same, like the 2000 nit peak brightness, the new strongest glass in any phone, and the new super low 1 nit at its lowest mode. So technically they are the same screens, but Apple is artificially limiting them by only allowing 60 Hz instead of getting Pro Motion that goes up to 120 Hz for super smoothness, as well as having the always on display, which I honestly love since I can just glance down at my phone and see any notifications that I may have missed. Man, I really wish that Apple would have put those features in the regular iPhone 16s, but then the 16 would just steal so much sales from the Pro phones. And for mistake number 3, do not assume that the iPhone 16s have a similar camera to the Pro models. Yes, Apple spent a ton of time on the cameras, and they showed off the 2x crop being better than the old physical 2x lenses, and they mentioned that it has a new 48 megapixel sensor and a new ultra wide, so technically it is an upgrade from the iPhone 15s, but that is not the full story. This new 48 megapixel camera is actually from the iPhone 15 Pro, which is the same one used in the iPhone 14 Pro, so it is now a 2-year-old camera system. Now it does look good, but the iPhone 15's 48 megapixel was actually slightly better in some cases than the Pros, so it is weird that they switched it over. And the upgraded ultra wide that now has autofocus for macro photos is the same one from the 15 Pro, which was actually my biggest disappointment in terms of the cameras on that phone. Now the 16 Pro models have brand new sensors, including the 48 megapixel ultra wide, which will be a huge upgrade, along with that sweet 5x lens in both sizes. So if you really care about cameras, you have to get the Pro phone. We will be doing a direct comparison showing you guys all the differences, so make sure you guys subscribe to see that one. Moving on to mistake number 4, don't assume that the USB-C ports are the same, because the iPhone 16 still comes with the unbelievably old and slow USB 2.0, which has been around for 23 years. The iPhone 16s get 10 gigabit per second USB 3, which is over 20 times faster. So if you ever transfer data through that cable, you have to get the Pro one. And moving on to number 5, do not assume that the new A18 Pro chip in the 16 Pro and Pro Max is much better than the regular iPhone 16s, because this new lineup is the most similar that we've ever seen. They have the same 6-core CPU using 2nd gen 3nm, and on top of that, the new A18 has a 40% gain in graphics performance, and the 18 Pro's gains are only being because of 1 extra GPU core. With that, the 16 also gets a new thermal management system, which was unexpected, getting 30% more sustained performance, whereas the Pro iPhones gain only 20% more thermal performance, likely because of titanium. So the real-world gaming performance will be closer than ever. We also have the same neural engines now with 8 gigs on both, and the A18 doesn't have to work as hard graphics-wise because of the 60Hz screen, so if you care about performance, the difference isn't that big. And getting into mistake number 6, last year Apple officially got rid of leather and replaced it with the fine woven cases, which sucked so much that they got rid of them, and they now only have have basic cases. Now, regardless of which iPhone model you buy, you're gonna wanna get a protective case, especially if you choose the expensive 16 Pro Max. So this is the O-Stand 360 spin case from our sponsor Torras, who is the original designer of the O-shaped stand case. It is slim and protective while looking premium and feeling super smooth in your hands, while also having great drop protection. Torras and iPhone share the same vision of increasing functionality, which is why this case has a MagSafe compatible O-stand that doubles as a stand and a ring grip. And the best part of this case's stand is that the angle of adjustability is unlimited, so you can watch movies, scroll through TikTok, or hang it to record a video with ease. They also have the Glass Go X screen protectors with the easiest two-step setup. Simply snap and pull and you are protected with 12 feet of military protection and scratch resistance. And you can order the O-Stand and the Glass Go X screen protector using the link in the video description and the pinned comment below. Getting into mistake number 7, if you are somebody who hates large, heavy phones like I do, and you got worried when Apple showed off that the Pro phones are even larger with the new 6.3-inch and 6.9-inch screens, don't be worried and feel like you will be forced to get a regular 16 model. The Pro phones are titanium, which helps, and while they are heavier than the regular 16s, it is not a massive difference, and surprisingly, the new 6.3-inch 16 Pro is actually slightly narrower than the 6.1-inch iPhone 16. The bigger screen is achieved by having the thinnest bezels ever in an iPhone, as well as having slightly more height, and as a huge plus, if you're like me and you're always on the fence between a regular and a larger size, the new 6.3-inch is a nice sweet spot. And that leads me into mistake number 8. Do not buy a max size for the cameras. For many years, if you wanted the best cameras, you had to buy the largest, most expensive iPhone, which is the only reason that I got my 15 Pro Max. But now, the regular iPhone 16 Pro has the same sweet 5x telephoto that I love, along with every other camera being the same. So now I can have a larger 6.3-inch screen in the regular size Pro and have it be slightly narrower than a regular iPhone 16 while getting really good battery life from the new chips and the larger battery, so it seems to be the overall winner. And for mistake number 9, don't think that the Pro Max is $200 more expensive than the regular Pro by looking at its list price. Most people speculated that the 16 Pro is gonna start at $1,100, but it is still at $999 because it still starts with 128 gigabytes of storage like it did before. So if you don't need 256 gig, you have the option to stick with 128 and save some money, which is nice. And finally, for mistake number 10, do not sleep on the new MagSafe. Apple really downplayed this update and they barely showed it off during the Pro lineup, but the regular iPhone 16 also gets MagSafe 2.0, which is better than we expected. It is now 25 watts, upgraded from 15 watts, so not the speculated 20, and it now is capable of fast charging your phone to 50% in about 30 minutes, which is the same as using a 20-watt wired adapter that Apple recommends using. And that is awesome because you no longer have to choose between wireless for convenience or wired for faster charging. And you also need to know that you will have to get an upgraded MagSafe puck charger, but another nice surprise is that we finally have a 2-meter length option instead of only being limited to a 1 meter. Now, this also has a new coil, which seems to make it more efficient, and I have to say that I'm really excited for finally having fast wireless charging. And now let's finally get into the buyer's guide portion of this video, starting with who should be buying the regular iPhone 16 model. Of course, it is for those who are on a budget, and thankfully, it is by far the closest to the Pro iPhones we have ever had, while keeping the same price and the low monthly payment. You get the same dynamic island with the same screen quality and brightness of the Pro models, with a 48 megapixel camera and the ultra wide that came from the 15 Pro Max, along with similar performance and even getting the action button now and the camera control, but with more colorful color options, which really pop, like this blue. So in terms of value, you really cannot beat the regular iPhone 16, and if you are a value shopper, I would highly recommend it. Now, of course, the 16 Plus is meant for those who really want a large display but aren't willing to dish out the crazy $1,200 for the Pro Max model, or who don't need the extra features. Now, the 6.3-inch iPhone 16 Pro model is for those who want the best of the best features like the 120Hz ProMotion, the always-on display, and the super fast USB Type-C port, and of course those that really care about camera quality and being able to zoom in and also get 5x portraits. It is sweet that you don't have to get a Pro Max for that 5x lens anymore, and I think that for most people that can stretch their budgets a bit, the 16 Pro is the best iPhone this year. And finally, we have the 16 Pro Max, and that is only for people that love having all the bells and whistles and want a huge screen with now a practically 7-inch display, and will be upgrading storage regardless. The other standout thing about the 16 Pro Max is that it actually has the best battery life of any iPhone, which in the last few generations was actually the Plus model iPhone, but not anymore. So if you need the best battery life and money isn't an issue, get the 16 Pro Max. So there you guys go. If you're gonna be upgrading to an iPhone 16, let me know which model you will be getting, as well as which iPhone you are upgrading from, or Android. And go ahead and click that circle above to subscribe. We have a lot of great videos coming up. Thank you for Torras for sponsoring this video, as well as you for watching, and we will see you in the next one.